Good evening, AP European History folks. No fancy pirate hats tonight. Just a little bit of a preface as to what we'll see over the course of the next couple of days. Mostly the rise of the Stuart clan from Scotland as the leaders of England. In 1603, Elizabeth ended her 45-year reign as Queen of England, a time of prosperity and peace and economic growth. To the throne rose her cousin, James Stuart. Now you might remember, a little bit of backstory here, that James's mother Mary, also known as Mary Queen of Scots, was the one who had taken Philip II's money and tried to have Elizabeth executed when she was queen. And she actually tried and failed at it numerous times. And when Elizabeth finally got tired of the old bird and her scheming, she had her executed, because that's the way Elizabeth rolled. She was an OG like that. When James arrived in England from Scotland, the biggest issue was whether or not he'd be able to rule the same way he had ruled in Scotland. When he was King of Scotland, he ruled by what they called divine right, or absolutism. We've been watching these monarchs over the last 6 weeks of our study get stronger and stronger, away from that medieval model, more towards the new monarchs idea, and now we're headed towards this absolutist stage where the monarchs are going to be pushing everyone out of the power structure and taking all of the power to themselves. We've been watching this happen in France under Louis XIII, or really under Richelieu, and we're going to see it happen in a huge way in the next unit when we get to Louis XIV, the Sun King. But for our purposes tonight, the big issue is the Stuarts and their problems with Parliament. See, unlike France, where there's no real limits on the power of the monarch, in England, the Parliament had had a long-standing tradition of limiting the power of the monarch. And they did this generally by withholding money. You see, the Parliament holds on to the purse. In other words, the money. If they don't want the monarch to spend, they have the ability to cut funding or to limit funding, and by doing so, they can curtail the agenda of the monarch. Now, the monarch's advantage here is the ability to call the Parliament into session. If he doesn't call the Parliament into session, the Parliament does not sit. And therefore, if you're in Parliament, you might have great ideas and hope for great things. But if you can't get the monarch to run out of money, you're not going to be of any use. So the struggle over those two issues was a huge one. Now, the third issue was religion. The Stuart family tended towards a very advanced Catholic form of Anglicanism, while the members of Parliament tended to be Puritans. Puritans were a Calvinist group who wanted to take away the last vestiges of Catholicism out of that Anglican faith and draw the country more towards the right and more towards a stricter Calvinism. They were aghast that anyone would want to put more Catholicism in, as it seems the Stuarts wanted to do. So we've seen this issue before, religion, and now we're adding into it money and power, and all three of them put together made for a very fiery mix. It's going to be a lot of fun.